Imagine spending 10, 20, or 30 years climbing a ladder only to realize that it's leaning against a wrong wall. Most people aren't exhausted because they're working too hard. They're exhausted because deep down they know that they're pouring their energy into something that doesn't feel aligned with who they are. And the strange thing is, purpose rarely disappears. It simply becomes quieter every time you ignore it. The dream doesn't die. You just become better at distracting yourself from hearing it. That's the real danger of not living your purpose. Not failure, not poverty, not embarrassment. It's becoming comfortable enough, tolerating a life that secretly feels wrong. You wake up early, you go to work, you pay your bills, you do what society expects from a responsible adult. From the outside, everything looks fine. Yet for some reason, there's a strange heaviness that follows you around. You keep telling yourself that things will feel different after the next promotion, the next paycheck, the next achievement. But every time you arrive, the feeling remains. You scroll endlessly at night because you spent the entire day doing something that doesn't interest you at all. You fantasize a different life, a different career, a different version of yourself, and then you wake up the next morning and repeat the same cycle. Not because you're lazy, not because you're incapable, but because part of you knows that you're moving, yet not necessarily in the right direction. Because a person can survive years without a purpose, but surviving and living is not the same thing. Human beings are designed to adapt. It's one of our greatest strengths. But adaptation can also become a trap because the mind has an incredible ability to normalize discomfort. Stay in an unfulfilling situation long enough, and eventually, it stops feeling abnormal. The danger is that familiarity starts to disguise itself as destiny. You start believing that just because you spent years on a path, you must continue walking it. Psychology calls this as sunk cost fallacy. The more time invested into a direction, the harder it becomes to admit that direction may no longer be serving you. So instead of asking, is this the life that I want? You begin to ask, how to make this life more tolerable. One question seeks truth and one question seeks survival. And there's a massive difference between the two. A farmer once planted a tree in a poor soil. Years passed and the tree barely grew. Instead of relocating it, he continued watering it. Another year passed, then another. Soon, he invested so much time in that tree that moving it feels impossible. So he kept watering it. He kept hoping. He kept waiting. Until one day he looked around and realized that the problem was never the effort. The problem was the location. Because many people live exactly like that tree. They aren't lacking discipline, or they aren't lacking intelligence either. They're just simply trying to force a growth in an environment that is not really designed to who they are becoming. You can water a wrong tree for years, but still be disappointed by the harvest. If you're feeling lost right now, maybe that's not a sign that you're broken. Maybe it's a sign that your current path is no longer convincing or serving your soul. You don't need to quit your job tomorrow. You don't need to burn your life to the ground, obviously, but you do need to be honest. Because every meaningful change begins with honesty. Just ask yourself, what keeps returning to my mind? What dream refuses to leave me alone? What would I pursue if embarrassment wasn't part of the equation? Because the people who find it aren't necessarily smarter than everyone else. They just simply listen sooner. Remember this, most people think that purpose gives life meaning. Sometimes, purpose does something far more important. It reveals where you've been settling. And once you see that truth, you can never completely unsee it. Years from now, your regret won't be that risk you took chasing something meaningful. It'll be the life that you could have built if you just trusted yourself sooner. Because the cost of pursuing your purpose is uncertainty. The cost of ignoring it is spending your entire life wondering what you could have become.